Hi everybody, it is, oh goodness, what's today's date? December 7th, 2010. I am currently 38 weeks pregnant and 2 days. I haven't made a video in forever, and it's been like a crazy amount of stuff that's been going on. Long story short, I think the last video I made, I had just found out that we were having a boy. So that's been very exciting. I had my baby shower on my 30th week exactly, and that was really awesome. Got a lot of really good stuff, a ton of clothes. Other than that, I really haven't been updating because I was working so much, and there wasn't really a lot to say. I mean, everything's been going pretty straight, you know, middle of the road. So, until 34 weeks and 4 days, I was having probably one of the worst days of work I've ever had in my life. And I have been having Braxton Hicks contractions since about like 20 weeks or so, I want to say. And I mean, they were pretty frequent, I would say. I was having sometimes more than 4 an hour, and I always would talk to my midwife about it, and she was always like, oh, well, it's not really a concern, we're not too worried about it. So I just kind of eventually learned to just ignore it. So, on that particular day, I'd been having a lot of contractions, and I knew it was because I wasn't able to sit, I wasn't able to pee, and that's a big trigger for me. If I don't empty my bladder, I'll just keep contracting until I empty my bladder. And I also wasn't really drinking that much, so it was like the perfect storm. And finally went to the bathroom. My shift was over at 7. I had worked 7 to 7. And it was around 6 o'clock, and when I went into the bathroom, I noticed what looked like it was part of my mucus plug. So of course, I mean, I was only 34 weeks pregnant, I started freaking out, and I decided to call my midwife. And luckily, you know, I work in the hospital, so I just called them and said, you know, I've been having contractions, I look like I lost part of my mucus plug. And she honestly, I mean, I was surprised. She said, you can either go home and lay down and see if taking it easy will help you, or you can come up and be monitored. So I was freaked out, and I decided that I was going to call my husband and have him meet me at the hospital, and I would go be monitored. So we went upstairs, and they did the urine sample and yada yada yada, and they had me drink about 6 or 7 of those big glasses of water, and I must have peed like 100 times when I was there. But the midwife came in and said, you know, we're going to check your cervix to see if you're dilating, because I was also feeling a lot of back pain and I guess rectal pressure. So I was thinking, oh my gosh, I'm like getting ready to have this baby, you know, because everything goes through your mind. And then she checked me, and she said, oh, you're a centimeter dilated and you're very soft, but she said you're a centimeter at the external os, not in the internal os. So she said, so far that's a good thing. And since you've been on the monitor, which was all of like 6 minutes before she checked me, she said I hadn't had a contraction. So as soon as she walked out of the room, I noticed I was having Braxton Hicks, and I was looking at the monitor and I could see the hill, and it was about every 8 minutes. So she comes back in and says, I'm starting to get a little concerned because you weren't having any contractions, and now it's consistently every 8 minutes that you're contracting. So she said, I want to keep you for another hour and see if they get any closer together, and see if they stop on their own with hydration and urinating and just relaxing. And at first she was like, I'm not going to even give you anything to stop the contractions. We'll just see how that goes. So an hour goes by, I'm still contracting every 8 minutes. And she comes back in and says, you know, I talked to the OB on call and he says we might as well give you a shot of terbutaline and see if it stops the contractions. Now, I don't know if anyone has ever had TERB, but it is awful, and no matter what they say to prepare you for it, it's awful. I had been awake since 4:30 that morning to go to work. I had gone to pee at like 3 times in the middle of the night, so I had maybe gotten a total of like 3 hours of good sleep. And this was around 9 o'clock now. We're rounding out 9, 10 o'clock that she gives me this TERB. I am shaking like a crackhead. Like literally my hands were like this. I felt like my heart was in my mouth. And I knew it was all normal, so I wasn't freaking out about it, but I just felt like I couldn't catch my breath, and I was like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. I'd rather just have the contractions. So the terbutaline worked for the half an hour, but it's got a very short half-life, so it's pretty much only effective for about a half an hour, 45 minutes. And the idea is to try to stop the pattern of contractions. So if you get the shot and it stops the contractions, good, but it's not gonna stop it and continuing to stop it unless you're taking it. Like, that's why they prescribe terbutaline pills for people who are in preterm labor, because you need to keep taking it. So she leaves me alone for the half an hour. Everything's going fine. I'm trying to actually, you know, like rest a little bit. And she comes back in and she said, you just started having contractions again. Are you feeling them? And I said, yeah, I feel them, but I didn't know I was supposed to tell you. And she said, you know what, why don't we give you another dose and keep you overnight? And I was like, really? To stay overnight? Like, I was really upset about it because the bed was awful, and I'm really not looking forward to delivering because the bed was awful. But I ended up, my washing machine is on spin, so it's probably gonna get really loud. But I ended up taking the second shot of TERB, trying to fall asleep, which didn't happen. And she came back in about an hour later. Now it's around 1 o'clock, or 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, and she's like, you're still contracting. I spoke to the OB again on call. He said that at this point, there's no reason for you to stay if you don't want to. Because she came in and she checked me again. She said that my cervix hadn't changed in 4 hours. So she said you can either go home and see if they get closer together or stronger and then come back. She said because at this point you're close enough to 35 weeks that we wouldn't try to stop your labor if you were going to go. So I was very nervous about this, obviously, you know, but what can I do? So I decided to go home. So we went home, and she's like, we'll have you come in on, this was a Friday, she said, we'll have you come in on Monday, I'll check your cervix to see if you can go back to work. If your cervix has changed, we don't want you to work until you're full term. So, long story short, I went in on that Monday. My cervix was now a full centimeter dilated, internal and external, so it wasn't a huge change, but she said I could go back to work if I felt comfortable. So I was supposed to work that day 11 to 11, my appointment was at 10. I went downstairs, I spoke to my supervisor, and she said, well, we'll have you be in what we call express care, so it's like sutures and, you know, little kids breaking bones. It's not a lot of like really intensive things that I would have to do. So I was happy about that, and I sat down, had to go to the bathroom, went to the bathroom, noticed a little spotting, but I thought, you know, I just had a cervical check, I'm not going to freak out about this. So, going, doing my thing, about an hour later, I get up to use the bathroom again, and notice about 2 quarter-size blood clots in the toilet. And I was very freaked out about that because the spotting I had was very light pink, not bright red blood. So, what I did was I called them and they told me, you can go home, basically. So I went home and they told me they were going to check me again in a week, because at that time I would be full term or whatever. They checked me again in the week and they said, you know, you're like 1.5 centimeters dilated, you're not really doing a whole lot. If you want to go back, you can go back. And I said, there's no way. You know, I tried to go to the grocery store over the, you know, the course of the week that I was home. I would be like doubled over after walking for, you know, like 15 minutes. I'd have to be contracting every 15 minutes with activity. And I was like, I can't see being, it's not like I go to a job and I sit at a desk and I can do, I was talking really loud. It's not like I sit at a desk and I can do paperwork and just try to relax. You know, like I work in an emergency room as a nurse, so I'm like dealing with people's lives, you know, and I can't just tell someone, hold on a minute, I'm, you know, having a contraction. So after crunching some numbers and doing some crying, and my husband actually got a new job and a promotion, thank the Lord, we decided that I was going to start my maternity leave from, I guess, basically the 34-week mark. So I've been on maternity leave now for a month, and it's been awesome. Hold on.